What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with NIO, Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. And break down what's going on with the economic calendar right now for the markets, what the news is saying about NIO, and you should be watching for as time progresses. But before I break anything down all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you're guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. The offer ends in just about 2 weeks from now, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with NIO in the markets. So when it comes to NIO, it's up 5.65% for the day amidst the news that came out that NIO is going to be cutting its workforce. And this is actually some big news for it because it's going to end up affecting a lot of different sectors in their business. So with that happening, the market is looking like it might cool off a bit from a technical standpoint, but I don't fully trust it because on Monday before the market opens, we have Berkshire Hathaway's earnings. We'll see if the market gets one last little pump before it starts to cool off, or if the market just cools off from here. Either way, I think the market's due to pull back. I think SPY is going to pull back very soon. If you look at its technicals, we have this gap down here to fill at 431. But just to be safe, whether or not this is going to truly play on, we see the market drop, or if SPY bounces first and then it drops, it's all going to depend on Berkshire Hathaway's earnings and what effect it has on the markets, and not to mention other pieces of data. Now, for Monday, we only have Cook from the Fed giving a speech. Not really anything else is coming out from Monday. For Tuesday, we have a couple of other things. We have some economic optimism reports and such. And for Wednesday, we have Powell giving another speech, which is going to be very important. So we have a couple of things coming out between Monday and Wednesday. We'll see what happens then. For NIO, we have some big news that came out. NIO is joining many investors and many individuals out there and other entrepreneurs. Basically, the founder of Frame, which is a design leading magazine in the Netherlands. That is very, very important because this is going to help them talk more and more about NIO's future, their designs, their improvements, and etc. So we're going to be watching this very carefully to see how things go. We're going to be very patient to see how NIO continues to innovate. Now, some news has come out that NIO has cut 10% of the workforce, as the CEO is predicting intense competition very soon. If NIO ends up cutting 10% of its workforce amidst the fierce competition that's going on, that's going to be very telling and very important for the company. If they do this, and they plan on doing this basically, that's what they've said, you have to remember that this is going to help reduce costs for the company, and businesses oftentimes do this because they're not going to be just cutting wages way too much. That's something that tends to happen, at least historically, for economies that are growing. Wages tend to not drop insanely hard for businesses. They tend to keep them similar uh, because of the cost of living and factors like that, and they tend to start cutting their workforce during areas of uncertainty, and also because of fierce competition. That could be another reason. So with that happening, NIO may have to continue to do so because of what's happened to their margins, what's going on with their company, and what could be going on with sales. Now, despite that, NIO also has been analyzing its 2-year operations plan. That's going to be very good for the past 2 months, and they're going to be talking about more organized plans for their growth, their investments into technologies, and their improvements in the financial performances. So that's going to be very important. They know that many of their colleagues may be impacted by this, but NIO has to do what's necessary for its future and its improvements. Now, when it comes to NIO, we have 56 million in volume, which is above average, which is not bad whatsoever. And we're starting to see some news coming out about how Deutsche Bank is still giving NIO those buy ratings. Price price ratio is going up as NIO is trying to bounce. And Tuesdays and Wednesdays tend to be stronger days than Mondays, as we're going to go over this later on. So, what do I see from a technical standpoint, at least for the short term? I see two possibilities, guys. If you look at the daily on SPY, it's due for a pullback very soon. Now, we could see this thing pop one more time for 438 and then reject. It's going to depend on Berkshire Hathaway's earnings. I don't know if it's going to pump the market or not, or it could just reject from a technical standpoint, starting to look a bit more bearish. We have a bearish looking 4-hour candle. And if we do end up breaking this 433 area, I expect this gap to get filled towards 431, taking us towards this 200 EMA on the 4-hour time frame at 430.5. I believe we're going to retest this if we end up getting that rejection, which I think we likely will. But I don't know if we're going to get one more pop first, a quick pop and then a drop, or if we just drop from here, because once again, it depends on the reaction after Berkshire Hathaway's earnings. From a technical standpoint, we're looking a bit more bearish. For Tesla, it looks like it could reverse from here after getting this rejection off the 50 EMA on the 4-hour time frame. And we have this gap down here to fill at 206. So we'll be watching to see if Tesla holds 214. It could, if it breaks 214, I think it's going to come down towards at least 212. And if that fails us, then 205 to 206 could be coming. So be very careful on Tesla. There's going to be a risk of some downside, but Tesla could still bounce later on as it's eventually going to fill this gap, in my opinion. Now, there's also the possibility that Berkshire Hathaway pumps the markets a bit more. So Tesla could get a backtest of this 50 EMA once again at this 227 area and then get that rejection. So we'll have to wait and see if we get a little bounce in a rejection or if we just reject from here. That's going to be very important. Now, for Apple looks like it might pump a little bit more. A little bit more upside could be coming to it to try to fill this gap, followed by a rejection very close to 177 to 178. And then I think Apple's going to retrace towards 174 for a very healthy, modest pullback. If you look at the last couple of days, it's been uptrending very nicely. And I think that Apple is due for some downside. For the QQQ, I'm anticipating some downside. It could pop one more time and just like touch 170, then just reject and come down to fill this gap towards 163, or it could just reject from here and come down to 163. It's got to be one of those two, either a pop and drop or a drop, and I'm still anticipating the same move. Nvidia's either going to drop here and come down to fill this gap towards 435, or it pops a little bit higher. It could go a little higher towards 458 to 460 because of Berkshire Hathaway's earnings, and then cool off. So I'm going to be watching that very, very carefully. All right, guys, so what does this mean for NIO? Two possibilities. I think NIO is going to follow the trend. NIO has this gap down here that's unfilled around this 7.84 area. There's also another gap down here at 7.5. I'm not counting on that to fill in the short term just yet, though. I think that NIO, it could pop towards this imbalance right here at 8.5 and then reject and come down to fill the next gap at 7.8 and then bounce. Or it might just come down from here and come down to fill this gap towards 7.8 and then bounce after that. So either way, I see NIO either dropping from here or it pops a little bit more towards 8.5 and then it drops to fill the gap in the high sevens. And then we see this thing bounce again. So either it drops here and bounces, or it pushes and then drops from here. On the 30 minutes time frame, you'll also notice that NIO happens to have a very interesting looking trend right now. You will notice that it's still trying to uptrend, but we have a potential rising wedge forming on the chart. So we have a rising wedge-like pattern developing on NIO, and we could see NIO reject because of that and come down to retest the 50 EMA. So either it pops one more time and drops, or just drops from here. That's what I'm anticipating for the short term for NIO, based off Tesla, based off SPY, and based off the trends for the overall market. All right, so that's it for this one. Thank you all so much for listening. Have a good one, and peace out.